Hello and welcome back. It is Gauntlet of Greatness time. I'm Randy Buehler, joined by Shadow Datella. You enjoying week one so far?
It could be better. Yes, it's awesome.
We are into Group A. We've got the Necro deck, the Skull, queued up against the Sligh deck, two of the most iconic decks from 1990s era Magic. And a lot of people think this is supposed to be a blowout in favor of the Sligh deck, and I'm not one of those people. I played a lot of Necro back in the day. You just go get your Necro anyway, and then knock all the cards out of their hand and, drain them a little bit, strip mine their lands. It's a game. I think the matchup is actually fairly close. I think that the games will tend to snowball a little bit, but they're fairly interactive until they get to the point where they're decided anyway. Let's look at the decks. So, our awesome, not that slide. Awesome Necro versus Sligh. Here we go. The Necro deck. This is the deck that made the finals of Season 1 here on the Gauntlet of Greatness. This is the deck that actually lost to Memory Jar in the finals in Season 1. I don't know if it's supposed to beat Academy, but it did defeat Tolarian Academy. I mean, the deck is good. It is Demonic Consultation, Dark Ritual. These are super powerful spells. You've got Hymn to Torok, which is 2 mana. They lose 2 cards at random. Strip Mine is actually unrestricted at this point in Standard, so fully 4 copies of Strip Mine at this point in time. 1's are an Orb, 1 Ivory Tower to gain some life. The 4 drains. Contagion is a pretty important card in this matchup. I kind of wish I didn't have the other 2 in the sideboard, but obviously didn't know the pairing. Hypnotic Spectre, and the Skull. Just all the usual suspects. Certainly one of my favorite decks of all time. This is the first deck I ever made top 8 of a Pro Tour qualifier with, and an extended version of this deck is the only deck I ever made top 8 of a Pro Tour with. So certainly happy memories for me. Your Sligh deck, oh right, I called it Dead Guy Red here, because this is very much the beatdown version of the deck, the sort of Dave Price of Team Dead Guy inspired version. Put 3 or 4 people into the top 8 of Worlds in 1998. Something about Jackal-Pup getting printed in Tempest. Took what used to be kind of a control-ish, invented the mana curve kind of a hit, but hit them with Ironclaw Orc 10 times kind of a deck into a beatdown. Suddenly there's 1 mana, 2 power creatures. Mog Fanatic is another good 1-drop. Curse Scroll is a great finisher. Ball Lightning, Fire Blast. This deck can just deal a ton of damage all of a sudden. Yeah, that's the matchup. Should be a good one. I don't know how many turns we're going to get to play, but I feel like the dance of how the decks interact for the first couple of turns is usually pretty good. All right, I am going to get to play the Necro side. Not that I'm playing the more broken deck, Shadow. I'm playing the ones where the hands are more interesting to watch. That's it.
It's fair.
All right, I have a match hosted. I will mute you, and we'll chat more after the match. Good luck.
Sure. Good luck.
Yes, I would like to play first. Yeah, it seems fine. It's not spectacular, but it's good. This card was a lot better before Play Draw was invented. I mean, you talk about the Mog Fanatics in his deck, which were better when damage used the stack. Although, to be fair, at the point in time where this deck was making the top 8 of Worlds, damage did not yet use the stack. That change went in with 6th edition, which came out the year after Tempest. So his Mog Fanatics made the deck without damage using the stack anyway. Now, this Ivory Tower, if I got to draw a card when I played... Oh, Goblin Vandal! What? What is going on? I'm going to get my Ivory Tower eaten by the random Goblin Vandal, whose job is to eat Curse Scrolls. Hacks. That is absurd. Yeah, back when the Necro deck first started, like when this deck was in Standard... Oh, good, a blocker. I would have gained 2 life there. I would just be up a card. Hilarious. I really want to cast Hymn to Torok, but I actually need to just block stupid Goblin Vandal. Weird. I mean, I could just let him eat my Ivory Tower. Since I'm going down below the cards anyway, I don't have access to a Necro. I don't know. I'm more likely, it's more disruptive to him now. And then I can play Order with a mana up for first strike next turn. Fine. Eat my Ivory Tower. You win this one, Mr. Goblin Vandal. My apologies. Here's the gameplay. There we go. Sorry. So all you guys missed is he played turn 1 Goblin Vandal. I played Swamp Swamp, and I had to decide whether I wanted to him or play a Pump Knight here. Decided to go for the him. I appreciate the chat keeping me honest. White-bordered Sandstalker. Oh, Shadow trolling me with the white-bordered cards. Did hit a mountain. I wonder how important that was. Keeping him pinned on mana is actually a really big deal. I feel like the easiest way to disrupt him is I just keep him below Ball Lightning, keep him below Curse Scroll activation, keep him below Hammer of Bogardan. And yeah, I hit his only mountain. Sweet. Hit his only mountain. Oh, now I wish I had my Ivory Tower back. I found my Necro. Boo. Gets my Nevernails disc too. Stupid Goblin Vandal. I mean, I could drain it for one. It wouldn't be insane. I think the better play here is to consult for Necro, though. Like, where's this game going? Yeah, I just consult for Necropotence. No fear. He's pinned on one land. If I find a Strip Mine... Oh, I could have consulted for Strip Mine, but I like this better. Consult for Strip Mine. I put him on 0 lands and a Goblin Vandal. I can drain life the Goblin. No, Necropotence is the play. It's too easy for him to draw lands. I need to get ahead. Good grief, we lost 34 cards. Two Strip Mines. 1 drain, 2 drain. That's a lot of cards. 16 cards left, though. That should be enough. Interesting. I think Hypnotic Spectre might be better here than Necro. Is that true? No, I want more cards. I want hymns and strips. I mean, the hippie is like a slow hymn. It's too easy for him to have a shock. Yeah, fill back to 7. I'm not going to over-Necro much against the Sligh deck. We'll just go to 7. We'll set a stop on my end step. Come on. Okay, Strip Mine. Sweet. And a him. Excellent. So I can strip. I can either him or hippie. Hippie's a little more mana efficient because it sets up the next turn to be him plus Pump Knight. I have 2 drains. 11 cards in my library. Should be enough. Can I use 3 Strip Mines? 1. I lost 3 Strip Mines, but found the 4th one. 1, you got me. Jackal Pup. Wish I had a Contagion. Did I lose both my Contagions? 1. Yeah, both my main deck Contagions are exiled. Alright, so I'm clearly going to Strip Mine. And then what? I can play Pump Knight with a mana up for first strike. I think I like that. I mean, I don't want to let those 2 guys keep hitting me. I could drain life Jackal Pup for 1, which wouldn't be insane. Yeah, I can either Drain Life Jackal Pup for 1 or play a Pump Knight with a mana untapped. If he draws a land and he has a Shock or a Fanatic, that'll be annoying. Oh my god, I've got 11 cards left in my library. Yeah, I mean, knocking cards out of his hand doesn't have a lot of value when he has no mana. Right, he's got a bunch of uncastable cards in his hand. So I don't think it's... If I go Hippie, I'm available to block the Vandal. I get hit by Jackal Pup, but then next turn, I'm attacking with Hypnotic Spectre. I think... I think I want Hypnotic Spectre. Tempted to over Necro to make sure I find the land. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 13 swamps and 2 Mishras in there. 13 swamps of my 17. There's a bunch of swamps in there. Yeah, I don't know that I can afford to discard any of these cards, so I'll just settle for 2 cards. Definitely hoping one of them's a swamp. Alright. Interesting. I could trade? I don't think taking 2 is that bad. I'm going to play Knight mana next turn. Yeah. Shock. It's a good card to knock out of his hand. Alright, now I think I am going to over Necro by 1. These Pop Knights are clogging up my hand. Good thing. Alright. I get a land drop. I do not get to play 2 black spells, unfortunately. But we're still in okay shape. So I'm going Pump Knight, leaving 1 up. I get to attack with both of these. And if he wants to block, then I can First Strike. Yeah, I think that's the line here. Just keep flooding the board with creatures I can attack with. That's how I'm going to win this game. I'm not going to be able to build up to Giant Drain Lives because I don't have enough library to go get stuff. If it wants to make me spend a mana for First Strike, I'm okay with that. Hippie gets an Incinerate. Alright, here's Mishra. And here's Pump Knight. Consultant. Oh, Zeranorb. Zeranorb's a good card. Oh, you know, I forgot to count the swamps in play. I'm actually down to 1 swamp in my library. I was thinking I had 4 left because I compared my exiled cards. All he's got for 1 mana is a Curse Scroll. That's great. That is excellent. So once again, I can play Pump Knight with a black mana untapped. I also have Mishra's Factory available to defend myself with, so definitely attacking. I want this game to end. Curse Scroll. Seven. So if he has Fire Blast in his hand, he can go Mountain, Incinerate you, Fire Blast you. Can also hit me with Goblin Vandal. But I have the Zuran Orb now, so... yeah, I'm just going to get 2 cards. Still hoping for land. 3 cards left in my library. Gonna get my money's worth this game. Oh, sweet. Perfect. Yeah, now we got it next turn. Ritual, Drain Life. It's a Drain Life for 5. Yep. Sweet. No fear. No problem. I mean, kind of a mana screw game, but it's also like I mana screwed him because I wasn't afraid to implement my plan, right? So we are playing historical standard decks here. My deck is from 1996. The opponent's deck is from 1998. Definitely 2 of the most iconic standard decks from the 90s, without a doubt. I want more Contagions against him. I want to be able to Contagion his Ball Lightnings. I think I want Mishra's Factory is just a good card at blocking. Also, he's a Wasteland deck. I don't think I want a lot of discs against him. And I don't want a lot of Necros against him. I can still consult with No Fear with 3 of them. And then what? Cut. I mean, the Pub Knights are pretty good there, but I don't think they're... I mean, they're not great against a Mog Fanatic Shock deck in general. I think Serrated Arrows is too slow. I just want the Contagions. All right. I'm going to play it this way. See what happens. Draw seems great. This card, this has to be... I don't know how this thing survived unrestricted. You know what part of it is? I think part of it is the fact that the way the mulligan rule worked back in the day, you could only mulligan if you had 0 or 7 land in your hand. So if you had a 1-land hand with... if you had a 1-land hand and your only land was a Strip Mine, then you just had no colored mana. Man, I mean, this hand has explosive possibilities. Let's see if we can mana screw him again. I think I'm willing to take 2 to try to get a second creature with my Contagion. Oh, pre-combat, what are you doing? He just wants to let me do this. Ritual, right? Hopefully this matters later. I mean, I draw a Necro, and I mean, my hand's insane, right? I'm 1 Necropotence away from just absolutely obliterating him. And the Strip Mine did its Strip Mine thing. He's... wow. I can Ritual Hippie. It seems like it's better to him and then play Hippie next turn. Hymns and Strips. They actually... I got a Ball Lightning and an Incinerate. There was one point in Standard where they left Necro legal, and they restricted Hymn to Torok. Again with the Goblin Vandal! Hilarious. Keeps Goblin Vandaling to kill my Ivory Tower. Funny. I think Hypnotic Spectre is a better play here than Necro. It blocks. It threatens to attack. I can start... I get a draw phase. Yeah, next turn. Yeah, okay, shocked. Do you have the red mana to kill the Ivory Tower, though? Does not have the red mana to kill the Ivory Tower. Maybe that was the one reason I would have been better off playing Necro. I already have the Ivory Tower. I played it fine. It's the same play. But now I'm missing land drops. I really want my Ivory Tower to live. Sure. Yeah, that's not going to have time to matter. Sweet. Yeah, just refilling to 7 should be fine here. He can't kill me from 12 with 1 mana. I'm not attacking with the Not Expector. I'm defending my artifacts. I mean, if I knew I was going to draw a Contagion, that would be one thing. But, man, I didn't draw a Contagion. 2nd mana. All right, now he's got, like, Incinerate, Fire Blast possibilities. But I'm gaining 3 from Ivory Tower. I am... get 3 cards in his hand. So what? I can go him, Hippie, leave up Consult. Oh, I'm getting him to Torok. Yeah. He's got nothing, right? I'm gaining life. I'm gaining life. I've knocked all the cards out of his hand. Hello, Necropotence. That is how it's done. Sorry, is it okay if I enjoyed that?
You can enjoy that. I don't think that my no land Sligh deck can beat 5 life a turn. That's what I decided.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, no, I drew Ivory Tower. I mean, the strip mines were the game. But you deserve it. You're a dirty wasteland deck. You deserve it.
You're a dirty strip mine deck.
Not the same. I mean, the skull makes up for it. It makes everything seem much more fair.
Yeah, that's how I describe that match. Fair.
Well, good game, sir.
Good games.
All right, so there's week 1 in the books. Good times. Group A. So when we get back to Group A, this is how it should be, right? We get Necro versus Tinker for the 2-0, the 2 kind of broken degenerate decks. Sligh versus Rebels. I gotta think that favors the Sligh deck. Although the Rebels have Thermal Glider and the ability to search it up, I think that actually gets interesting. I don't know. That'll be those will be good games. I don't know how either of those play out. Like, both Necro and Tinker can do explosive things relatively quickly. Both Sligh and the Rebels are going to interact in sort of interesting ways. So, anyway, those were good games. I'm seeing questions in the chat.
It's just going to be Necro and Tinker advancing, right? Like,
I mean, probably.
Probably.
Yeah. So the way these decks got picked, I see people asking in the chat. Some of it was me. Some of it was a public vote. So we did a previous season with historical standard decks. It was basically just I picked, and I didn't try to pick number 1 through number 16. What I did was I tried to pick a diversity of strategies, a diversity of eras, a diversity of colors. And the Rebel deck got in partly because it was a white deck and it was a creature deck and it was a Kai Buddha deck. So I picked these 16 decks, which I felt like had the best 5 or 10 decks of all time, and then kind of rounded things out with things that I thought would just make for more interesting matchups, or more diverse matchups, to get sort of a cross-section of standard through all time. Now, for this season, we took the winning deck and retired it to the Hall of Fame. So there's no Memory Jar deck. Memory Jar proved itself. It's ridiculous. It was only legal for like 3.5 weeks. I played a large part in getting it emergency banned. And you know what we proved in Season 1? It needed to be emergency banned. That's what we proved in Season 1. Won the whole tournament, turn 1 kill in the finals, just ridiculousness. We also sent the Academy deck into the Hall of Fame because it also just felt like it was playing a whole different sport. So 2 decks went to the Hall of Fame. And then each of the group losers, we did the same thing with groups of 4, and each of the losers was kicked out of the event. So we had 10 decks left over. I decided I wanted to mix things up with Turbo Stasis. I just wanted to have a Mana Denial deck just to kind of see how that would play. And I wanted to put in a Modern Era Standard deck. So I put in the Black Devotion deck that was terrorizing Standard last year. So I added those 2, and then we did a vote. Put the poll up. I picked 10 other decks, let people vote, and people voted in the last 4 spots. So Zvi Bargain got voted in. The Tinker deck got voted in. Jund was the 4th place deck. And what was the other deck that people voted in? Rexer, Survival Recur. So Survival Recur got voted in with that as well. Basically, the public seems to like late 90s broken stuff. Everything is either Saga or Tempest infused, and that's fine. I added stuff from other eras, so now we have these 4 groups. Then the next step in my process was to say, I'm going to rank these 1 to 16 just in my own head in order to do seedings for the group. I didn't want to just do the groups randomly. I wanted to have it be at least a little bit balanced, keep the top decks away from each other till we got to the playoffs. So I ranked them 1 to 16, and then I didn't S-curve it like an NCAA basketball tournament or anything. I just said the top 4 decks are 1 seeds, the next 4 decks are the 2 seeds, 3 seeds, 4 seeds, and each group got random, a 1 seed, a 2 seed, a 3 seed, a 4 seed, just completely random. And here we go. Yeah, those are the groups we got. Group A turned out to be 4 fairly old decks. 2 that do broken things, 2 that I'm not going to call the Sligh deck a fair deck. It's got Wastelands and Jackal Pups and Ball Lightnings. And Sligh deck does just a ton of damage out of nowhere, but clearly was not good enough to handle the Skull. Not with those draws anyway. Group B, here you get more of sort of the middle eras of Standard, sort of fires through fairies, I guess. Or fires through Mythic is the most recent deck here. Got a Dragonstorm deck. Yeah, the Fairies deck, the Dragonstorm deck survived last season. Mythic and Fairies both made the playoffs last season. This is 4 returning decks, as it turns out. Group C has our other Jace the Mind Sculptor deck, Callblade. Affinity also just considered one of the rock stars across the history of Standard, but did not have a good season 1. Managed to lose to Rebels and let Rebels sneak into the playoffs. And then I have no idea how good Survival Recur is these days. I haven't played that deck in a while. Like, it won Worlds. It won the Worlds that Sligh made the top 4 in, but yeah. I see chat complaining about no Replenish. Replenish was in the vote. It finished 5th. It was the next deck down, was the Replenish deck.
They should have voted more.
Yeah, I should have voted more, exactly. There's the Bargain deck. There's the Turbostasis deck. This group is just, I have no idea what's going on. These are just 4 completely different strategies. You have like the Weenie Creature deck, the Grindy Attrition deck, the Combo deck, and the Mana Denial deck. Just 4 different ways to play Magic in Group D. Turbostasis and Necro managed to avoid each other randomly. That I know Turbostasis was in part done as a reaction against the Necro deck we just watched, so I don't know. Will be fun. The format is top 2 decks from each group will advance to a top 8 playoff. The way we're going to figure the top 2 decks, we play 2 rounds. The 2-0 deck automatically advances. The 0-2 deck is kicked out, and then the 1-1s will play off for the last spot. So I'm with you. I think Group A is gonna wind up being Necro and Tinker advancing, but we got to get there. These decks got to get their shot, and you got to see if Kai's Rebel deck can finally get relegated. People keep looking at that deck and thinking it's underpowered, but pretty good. Group C is stacked. I will definitely agree that Group C is stacked. In my mind, there were 5 decks that I wanted to give a 1 seed to, and Affinity was the 5th place deck. Because it failed to make the playoffs last year, I was like, well, I can't give it a 1 seed when it couldn't even get out of the group stage last season. So I gave Affinity sort of the 5th place spot in my overall ranking. That meant whatever group wound up with Affinity was going to be the toughest group, probably. But I also Jund, which feels to me like a legit deck, because it finished last of the group stage last year. I gave it a 4 seed. So I feel like it's got the best 2 seed and the best 4 seed, which yeah, definitely makes Group C the most stacked of these in my mind. I don't know. We'll see. We'll get there in 2 weeks. Next week, what do we got next week? Next week we go to Group B. It'll be Mythic against Dragonstorm. So this Mythic deck, this is the Mythic Conscription deck that bunch of acceleration into Eldrazi Conscription as early as turn 3 off of Sovereigns of Lost Alara. Oh, by the way, the backup plan is that you've got 4 Jace the Mind Sculptors in your deck. So it is a very good deck for not having a ton of buzz. I don't feel like it's the most iconic deck in the history of Standard, but it is very, very good. It might actually be the best Jace deck. That'll be against Dragonstorm, and then Fairies against Fires. Yeah, Bloodbraid Elf does get a chance to eat Jace in this group. I mean, we'll see how the bracket plays out, but that's the plan. So, all right, there's week 1 for the Gauntlet of Greatness. kicked off the new season. Historical standard decks. These are, I don't know, I enjoy playing these decks. I look forward to playing them a lot more. See you guys same time, same place next week.